One. Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally happened. We've been searching the worldwide all over the place for Jim DiNoble, ladies and gentlemen. We found him laid back in St. Petersburg, Florida, ladies and gentlemen. Jim, welcome to Whale Certified.
Thanks, Kevin. Yes, laid back. I'm sitting on my sun deck. Got a little warm, so I came into my screened-in room. And it's a beautiful day here in St. Petersburg.
Yeah. Do they have mosquitoes as big as spiders and stuff, or what?
Biggest mosquitoes I encountered was in Minnesota, in Minneapolis during the summer.
Yeah.
Per capita, I would say we have more. They're not quite as big as the ones up there in the summer. But,
all right. But man, oh man, I'm telling you, we've been. You've done your major league stuff, man. I mean, you're known worldwide, and our PVD Perry Vanderbeck, PVB Perry Vanderbeck speaks highly of you, and everybody that knows you does. And
well, thank you.
Yeah, and your resume is impeccable of what you have accomplished and what the thought, movement, and action of the position of goalkeeping and the overall style of soccer, and that we know of the same peoples. One being the Franz Hook, that he came on, and so before you even say a word, you are Whale Certified Hall of Affinity, Jim DiNoble.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm happy to be with you.
Right. And so we talked over the air, off the air, and everything. We just touched and everything. And I think I would want to start the ball rolling.
Okay.
It's about the overlapping goalkeeper. Here he comes. Here they come.
I've done it many a times when I could run fast.
Boom. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the days we'd be having 11v11 scrimmages, and you want to add with some fun, and there goes the goalkeeper overlapping, getting into the midfield, taking on midfielders, nutmegging in one and getting around them and up the flank and putting in a cross to the far post, and hopefully you get a number 7 running in on the backside and heads it in. That's a second goalkeeper's biggest dream. The other one is to dribble through the whole team and score. That's the big dream.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Although I did have the luxury in college to punt one in down at University of Miami at Mark Light Field.
Oh, beautiful.
Back in 1974, I believe it was. I always say, a typical South Florida storm came up and I had the wind at my back. But the evolution of the Goalplayer, as Franz Hook refers to it now, and I've been fortunate to have a great relationship with Franz that goes back into the 80s. Meeting him through Joe Matchnick's camps that I hosted at Eckerd College, where I went to school and assisted, and then was head coach. For a total of 28 years, and
beautiful.
And Franz and I got to know each other. Worked several of Joe's camps together.
Man, what a name dropper that Joe is, boy, huh?
Yeah,
He knows.
And if you haven't read his book, you need to. Joe Matnick's recent book that he just put out there.
From Sandlots to World Cup.
Correct. That's the title of it. Thank you. He knowing Joe well, and we're both from the same area. I grew up, born and raised in Providence. That's where I learned my soccer, and yes, I played goalkeeper without gloves in the 60s.
Yeah.
In freezing temperatures.
Oh, yeah.
And then when it got too cold, you put your snowball gloves on, right? And,
absolutely.
You did your best. But with Franz, we kept a great relationship, and I hosted him at Eckerd several times. What he was calling back in the 90s his Franz Hook method, which was part of his coaching education journey that he's still on. And in between, he's packed in quite a few great clubs that he's worked with, and great coaches, both on the club and national team level. And so, yeah, we just had Franz in, I guess about 3 weeks ago. He was down piggybacking right after the coaches convention, came down to Orlando to work with USYS with all their at the interregional event, and work with all the regional coaches, and gave several for both the boys and the girls coaches his lectures and field demonstrations. And we're working on bringing Franz back to the Tampa Bay area to do the same thing, because he has some unique ideas.
Yeah, and would that follow up my thought and help me correct me? Is that far as the American style, the American goalkeeper, this is right in the man and woman goalkeeper, goal player for the world to see. That we would be naturally involved in this, that the whole Americanization of soccer, that each player would be in this, one of 11. We play with the whole 11.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had our golden era with the Casey Kellers and Friedels and Mayolas and several others that, always the Americans were good with their hands. They were athletic. They kind of had an intuitive process, be it either, cross-training with basketball or other sports, that they could excel. And still, back in those days of those great keepers I just mentioned, most of the world goalkeepers were stuck on their line, and they weren't doing a whole lot. And our guys were fearless. They would come off their line. I wouldn't say they were necessarily adept at playing with their feet, although they had strong legs. It's interesting to see how the game's evolving, how the game is coming into play. We were talking earlier where, the 1990 World Cup, when Italy's Dino Zoff killed off about 25 minutes of a World Cup game, because you could pass it back to the keeper, you could pick it up, you could run to the right, run to the left. There was no 6-second or 8-second rule or whatever seconds it is now, because it's never called, and kill off a game. So in 92, FIFA introduced their back pass rule. And then we started from there. And, the initial development going back, again, when I was a youngster in Providence, boom it up the field. And, I was a baseball catcher. I love catching things. I guess I'm paying for it now with all these artificial body parts I have. But getting my body in front of the ball, being fearless. And that was the requirement. And then, I didn't run real well, so, okay. The opportunity evolved where we lost our goalkeeper in high school, and I said, I'll jump in there. If it means I can catch a ball and don't have to run as a midfielder, I'll do it. Yeah. And my journey started then. But now with Franz, goal player, and we need to start calling them goal players.
There you go.
Because the aspect of that position now And yeah, going back to the overlapping goalkeeper, that is going to evolve where we're going to see rotation of players. You talk about Johan Cruyff, which Franz studied with originally, the integration of the total soccer with the great Dutch coaches. And, it's interesting to see what's going on now. And it's used to be, well, the keepers are going to be good with playing their feet. Well, yes, that's absolutely correct. You've got to be able to short, medium, long, with some bends, with some flavor to the balls, with some tempo, but also now, and this is the next level that Franz is bringing it, and yes, I'm a disciple of Franz, and I firmly believe in what he is teaching, is that the interplay of their total team, of where they're possession and who's checking in and when and where, all the tactical considerations that we have to be aware of, all based on what the opposing team is doing. How high they're pressing and where they're pressing, or are they trying to trap you into certain areas, and, how do you react to that? And then, like we were talking about, it's all relevant to the game itself, the conditions of the game.
Music to my ears, Jim.
Yeah. So it's all relevant to those things. And as we were talking about the Champions League, at the highest level, one misplayed ball that your midfielder is not checking at the right time, you play it into him, he gets tackled or he gets toe poked, ball's back in the net, and you don't make the Champions League and you suffer millions of dollars for it. Whereas at the high school level, there is, in my mind, and I think a lot of people will share this, the relevancy of these kids and family playing those goals and those winning certain games is worth more than $1 million. It's I've always said that, soccer is just a game. It's not life or death, but it is life. It's what we do. It's what we dream about going to bed. It's what we wake up wanting to do 24/7. And, that doesn't mean everybody has to have that mentality, but it means a lot to you. And so learn how to evolve with the game and learn how to adapt and adjust. And it's interesting where goal players and goal player coaches are developing this, but this is even critically important for assistant coaches and head coaches to be aware of all the nuances of this movement and decision making with not only their defenders, their midfielders, their forwards, on both sides of the ball and the transition game. It's all relevant. So now we're back to the overlapping goalkeeper or the underlapping goalkeeper that, the Higuitas of the world that's going to take on the midfielders and go to goal and score. So it's all evolving, and it's wonderful to see. And I'm so excited about the World Cup for many reasons, but to see now what we learned from the World Cup and where we go from here with the goal play and how the next generation adapts. And just one more thing, going back to that golden generation of USA keepers. And I had the very good fortune to work with many of our young keepers with the under-17s and the under-20s USA teams. Where do we go with this? Like I said, it's the great athlete, the great player that has good feet, good hands, but now we've got to be able to think. We've got to be able to respond. Now the big criticism is, hey, we're we're developing these really good midfielders and good forwards, and our goalkeeping is kind of so-so. And why is that? How come USA doesn't have quality goalkeepers, and that's all respect to Matt Freese and company. And I think, their experience level on the World Cup level is something they've never experienced. If God bless him, Matt is a homegrown kid. He's came through our system. He's never been on the international stage, other than he's gotten some recent time with our national team, and not a whole lot of important matches. But that World Cup stage is a totally different animal, and we're lucky to be hosting it. And I'm so excited for it, to see what we're going to learn from it.
Yeah, because there's a purpose, on purpose, with a purpose, for a purpose. That it's not here just to, go to a game and watch. It's here to be a part of it, to really Americanize and go forward with it. And that's the beauty of it, is that what I'm hearing from you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that you are seeing, you have expectations, you have an open mind of what is going to happen. And then
what are we going to do about it, Kevin?
Yes, right. Well, then after it happens, then it becomes that you have the adult in the room, and enough of the nonsense, and really get it going.
We've got to look at the game. What's happening day after tomorrow? The Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And the world's going to stop in the United States for a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting when the World Cup came in '94, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in a few months ahead of us here. How the USA kind of begins to recognize soccer on a general mass population thing, and but we've got to get to the point, and we're getting there. It's evolving, and I think people don't have the patience or the experience to understand it's we hear the buzzword process a lot now. It takes a little time, There's only a handful of countries that have won multiple World Cups.
Yeah.
And then there's been one and dones, and there's been some that have come in to the semifinals, and then you don't see them anymore. So we have to be willing to roll up our sleeves and put to work and get more experience and be exposed to higher level thinkers in the game.
Yes.
But it has to be applied to the field. You can't just talk about it. You just
Correct.
can't bullet point it or PowerPoint it. You've actually got to go out there and experience. You've got to experience, those the other buzzword is significant games. And getting back to the High School Champions League, that actually down here in St. Pete tomorrow morning, I will be at with Coach Hart, I will be at the draw for the Tampa Bay.
Beautiful.
Teams.
Beautiful.
For the upcoming, I guess it'll be 26-27 season, and the final again will be played at the Al Lang Stadium in St. Petersburg, Florida, home of the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and that draw is tomorrow. And we have to create significant scenarios, significant environments. And again, I'm using some buzzwords, but you got to understand the context of these words and put some meaning to them and significance. And that's why I think what Coach Hart has done with the Champions League, and I'm again, we go back, when we were still very young coaches, and he actually helped me a couple of years at Eckerd College. And our camps, we did our camps together, and what he has built and how St. Louis has come on board. And for me, and I've had good fortune to play with, against, and at in St. Louis, and I understand the passion. Growing up in the Northeast, understanding the ethnic passion in certain pockets. Back in my days, in the early days, and we've grown. I mean, you have to be realistic. Look at all the standalone soccer facilities now. Every time I open Soccer America, another one is being built.
Wow.
In every city, I think what the USL is doing, they just came out with more of a blueprint. They've hired a person from England to come on and run their first division, whereas what they call the championship division will become the second tier, and then there's a third tier, and we've got a team starting now this season, actually maybe this weekend. Yeah, they have their first game in Sarasota, and so the ladder is being built, and where these kids from the Champions League are going to step up the ladder either into college or into the system that is now starting to get established. And again, a gentleman that I've got to know and experience, Francisco Marcos, and what he started, which is now the existing USL. And that was 35 years ago when he started the old Sicily League, and to where it is today. To think in just 30 years how it's grown. And going back to the Super Bowl, well, the world's going to stop in the United States day after tomorrow, and it's party time. It's DNA time. Well, soccer's going to get there. It is getting there. You got to understand our society and our culture, where we came from and how we evolved with all these other sports. And, the NFL is a monster when it comes to sport and what we are as far as the finances and all the people involved. But so is soccer. Soccer is getting there. And I call it soccer. I'm proud to call it soccer.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm in Mexico, I'll call it football.
Yeah, right.
Italy, I'll call it calcio.
Okay.
And, but here we call it soccer. And
Yeah.
there's actually a couple of countries like Australia and New Zealand that call it soccer. It's who we are, and that's what we've got to come to grips with.
Right.
We were talking earlier about what our style is. Well, our style at the moment is what it is, and next year it'll be what it is then. We're evolving into it, and we've got to. It was funny years ago. There was these little, and you see it, we all see it. What system is in vogue? I was part of the U.S. Soccer Development Academy with the Chargers Soccer Club for many years. And they came out, and I was also part of the U.S. Youth National Team's coaching staff and instructional staff, and came out with, in the academy, that we're all going to play 4-3-3. Which I thought had its benefits, and then it had its problems. It gave us a footing to all kind of see the game in one consistent way, and how to learn and develop that system in a practical manner. But like anything, you adjust and adapt. And then, and here's going back to the goalkeepers. I remember this problem, and I laugh now, but I wasn't laughing then, is because you wanted the goalkeepers to play out of the back. And again, the rule changed, and that we have to possess the ball. The goalkeepers would distribute the ball to outside defenders, central defenders, even if they had two opponents standing in the right pocket and left pocket, to failure. And the goalkeeper would say, well, you told me to play out of the back. I said, yeah, but not when there's two guys there.
Right.
And that's my point. And it's not an exaggerated point because it would happen all the time.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and this believe it or not comes from Cruyff. Some of the best passes are long passes.
Oh, magnifico.
I always remember the long diagonal pass out of the back by Koeman to Bergkamp in the World Cup. I believe it was the 94 World Cup where he brought it down, touched, and volleyed it home. And Cruyff says the long pass is to separate the lines.
Yep.
So you can play through the lines. And I mean, that's as basic as it comes, but we get caught up into, we got to keep possession. We got to play 4-3-3. So going back to try to identify what is the style of the United States. Well, we're going to see the Pochettino style. Come June. Help me out, Kevin. June something. It's coming up to 21st, I believe it is.
That's the only way I could go. Yeah.
That's the litmus test right there. That'll tell us what our style is. Because we brought in a very experienced coach on several continents who's played in the World Cup. I believe this will be his first coaching stint at the World Cup. But obviously has coached at some top clubs in Europe and grew up his game in Argentina. And then I think he's done a pretty good job of figuring out who that American guy is, that player, how he thinks, how he ticks, so to speak. And then we have the luxury, and it's so nice to see the Weston McKennies and the Pulisics. These guys are coming into form. Tillman, scoring goals left and right, all on the big stage with big clubs. And see how it translates this summer and what our style is. And that's what excites me. And then back to the goalkeeper. What does, given our strengths and weaknesses of our goalkeeper to play out of the back, and the other young man that was playing earlier and seems to struggle with that, has now looks like he's out of the picture. So how will the USA play out of the back? And what decisions will they make? And then now, how does that affect the whole team and their style of play?
Yeah.
We can talk about the general terms of direct and indirect, and the buzzword of playing through lines. But it'll be interesting when some of these very athletic teams come flying at us. We've got a couple of them in that first group that, I'll tell you what, the game moves fast.
Oh, yeah.
And the adrenaline. And again, I'll circle back to the Champions League. We put those top high school teams in a league, and then they evolve to a playoff system. At their stage in their life and experience, that adrenaline is pumping just as hard. And I think that's the whole mission of the Champions League. And those who don't make the Champions League, at least that's a goal to get into it next year.
Yep.
And it's wonderful that we've got some very nice sponsors that have come in for that, and we've got people like yourselves that are broadcasting it over the airwaves, and we've got so many other great people. And I'm going to see one of my best friends and mentors, Nick Slatar, tomorrow. Nick is one of our original coaches with our national team. He was in the very first A license with Joe Macknick.
Nice.
That Detmar Kramer. We started back then. We started trying to get organized, and we brought Detmar Kramer, renowned German coach.
Oh, man, yeah.
And we've gone through kind of the alphabet of coaches.
Yeah.
Vanagoulias from Greece, and the list goes on. And now we have an Argentinian. And we've had a few good American coaches, like Arena. I mean, always tip my hat to Bruce. He has done some wonderful things in the game, and what he's brought and how he's learned to manage. And ultimately, at the highest levels, it's all about man management. Yeah, you got to know your X and O's. You got to be aware of what's going on in the game and how to adjust. But you know, we've got some great American coaches out there that are coming through the ranks, and time will take its course, and hopefully we all learn together. And you know, will we win a few and lose a few? Sure, but that's what keeps us coming back.
Yeah, man.
So, well, that's my rant for you, Kevin.
Oh, baby. And I think you would agree with me, but correct me if I'm wrong, that this house that we're building, this family house, we ain't building it for a bed and breakfast to rent out. We're building it to live in it. To multi-family. We'll put something out in the backyard for the mother-in-law or something, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we want to be the best. We want to be champions. And again, that's a kind of an American mentality. We're going to be the best in everything. But one of my philosophies, and now I'm a few years older than you, and I've been fortunate that the game of soccer, football, calcio, whatever you want to call it, and you look at it from the perspective of other countries and their people, there's got to be a place for every person. And I know guys 75 playing soccer right now. God bless them.
Yeah.
They're my heroes. But every kid needs to play and enjoy the game.
Yeah. And
critically, as the adults in the room, as you say, where's the appropriate place for them to play, to have some success, to enjoy the game, and to be challenged a little bit? And if co-ed soccer is kind of a place that brings out the best in you, then play co-ed soccer. If rec soccer is what you really enjoy and you want to do it once or twice a week, play rec soccer. And then all the other levels that, again, the ladder that we have to go up. But please, everyone, find a place where the kids can be successful and enjoy the game. And hopefully the parents who are raising these kids can understand that aspect of it.
Hallelujah.
Because, you know, you look at Major League Baseball, you look at NFL football. Yeah, there's minor league systems, and we've got a good, really good model now for our minor league soccer system, along with the colleges. And the colleges are still producing excellent players for the pro game. They're also producing great soccer players and great professionals, but not playing soccer. They're onto other things. They're the ones that are saving lives, truly saving lives. But our soccer, breathes life into the community. It breathes what real community is, and that's always been my mantra. What's good for the community, what's good for the kids. May sound a little bit kumbaya, but those are the challenges that we are still taking on. I've somewhat hung up my cleats and my coaching whistle, but I'm still involved in trying to, do what I can. I mean, 2 weeks ago, and I love doing this, I was over with our Tampa Bay Sun Football Club professional team, which is in the USL, and we had a clinic, and I do this with Jen and David Titilio with Top Soccer, with FYSA, Florida Youth Soccer, working with the handicapped kids. There's got to be a place for every kid to play the game, enjoy the game, and truly experience the game. And then that's when the big explosion is going to happen.
Nice.
Now, in saying that, Kevin, all the other countries have similar problems now. Overcoaching, not enough funds, not enough places to play, too many opinions, corporate greed. The other countries now. I mean, it's the global
There you
world
go.
we live in.
Yeah.
And we will not talk geopolitics on this podcast. But it's going to be interesting this summer and how everything plays out. Because you go to certain models like Germany and Spain and France and a few others, they've had their systems in place for a while. But, the Germans were getting it done for about 10 years because they implemented a really good system. But then it got old. It got outdated. So the Germans now are trying to figure it out because people caught up to them.
Yeah.
The modern methods evolved. People learned them. The game evolved, and now what do you do? Well, that's coaching. How do you? How do you train? What are the training methods? And do we just let them play? How much coaching? These are all things we're going to continually have to figure out. There's never, as the saying goes, there's never, the destination, where everybody gets to raise the big trophy and that they've figured out the soccer puzzle. Well, not too many people get to do that, and it's brief because, try to stay on top for a while, and that's even harder to do. So, again, for me and everything that's going on, the next few months, can't wait for the World Cup. And yes, I'll be in front of the television watching the Super Bowl Sunday because I'm an American, and that's what we do. But so will a lot of people in other countries who become so global. We've got now baseball has got their own kind of mini World Cup that's starting this spring. It'll be down here in Florida. The finals are in Miami. So it's interesting to see the other sports go global. And then today we start the Winter Olympics. So isn't sports fun? I mean, more games, more places to go to play different games. But our game is soccer, and we're getting there. Got to be patient. Got to be composed. Got to stay hungry. Got to be relentless. Got to have an edge. Got to have all these things, but at the same time, we got to figure it out. So
yeah,
that's what I've been able to do for the last 50-something years. On managed to hang around long enough. I'm very fortunate to come across some great people and get to do some neat things and just try to keep learning. I mean, it's you're always learning. Even the great ones, the ones, it's interesting, Kevin, the best coaches that I've come across, they're always open-minded. They listen well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're willing to learn. They're learning. They're willing to say, okay, I didn't look at it that way. And but then, of course, like any walk of life, is how do you adapt it and adjust to it, to the little circle in your place. And I always think you got to start with the community. You got to start small, build a small, like we're doing with the Champions League. Yeah, it's growing across different parts of the country. But I'm excited about the draw tomorrow.
Yeah, you are. Ought to be.
Berg's Sports Bar, number one sports bar in the country. Berg's is great. You got to come down and have a wet one with us. So.
Yeah, he calls me the Wolfman Jack of podcast.
I take that as a compliment.
All right then.
That is a compliment.
All right then.
Jack, those of us that are young enough to remember Wolfman Jack, that's a compliment.
All right then.
That's a good one, Kevin.
Yeah. Well,
Ferg's is a great sponsor in the community. They're right next to our Tropicana field that our Rays are back playing once again this year after getting the roof torn off by the hurricanes. It's been a tough year or so down there.
I bet.
With all that stuff and how it's kind of upended things. But we're back to playing ball one way or the other, and Champions League draw tomorrow, and then tomorrow night in our Al Lang Stadium, Philadelphia Union, which trains in Clearwater. They have right by the Philadelphia Phillies baseball. They're in town training, and they'll be playing the Rowdies tomorrow night at Al Lang Stadium.
Wow.
On February 6th, and the field is in immaculate condition, and it'll be about 60 degrees, perfect playing weather. Now, it'll be 95 in about 4 or 5 months down there, but I just say, hey, you got to get ready to play in the tropics, going to Africa to play.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a world game. Adjust and adapt.
That's right. So we've said a lot, and we're going to let it stew about. And when you go down there tomorrow, you tell them, you've been whale certified from the Wolfman Jack.
All right, I will.
Yeah, and
that means something. I appreciate that.
All right then, and
I appreciate it.
All right then, and this is spectacular, and this is not going to be the last time we're going to talk to him. I really would like to have you come back and recap everything for us. But you've been very.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun to do it, just as much fun as it was to do today, sitting out on my sun porch. And I really appreciate it, Kevin. And you're doing great stuff, and continue to do it.
All right, then.
Let's keep engaging.
That's right.
Love it.
And all right, thanks, Jim. The best to the best. Bye bye.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
All right.
Keep moving.
That's a promise. Bye bye.
All right. Good luck.